Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jack and today I am going to read some interesting post from AskReddit about the red flags in early stages of dating. So, sit back, relax and enjoy this video. What is your red flag in a woman or man when you're in the early stages of dating? Red flag number 1. Got jealous about every single call you received, even when it was from your family members. Accusing you of cheating with that whore you're on the phone with, even though that whore was your dad. They ended up being a major cheater in the end. Red flag number 2. Playing head games. We're not in high school, and you aren't on The Bachelorette. Be honest, sincere, and forthcoming, and we'll get along just fine. I'm in my mid-30s, and thus am too old and rickety to jump through hoops. Red flag number 3. Refers to herself as a bitch or a crazy bitch. Best advice my mum gave me. When someone tells you something about themselves, believe them. They know themselves. Red flag number 4. Blowing up my phone at 2 in the morning is a big one for me. I don't mind so much if it's 1 or 2 messages late at night so long as they obviously know most people are asleep around then, but if I wake up to like a dozen or so texts where they're growing increasingly mad that I'm not responding, it's a red flag. Red flag number 5. Oversteps boundaries too quickly, pushy, tells you what to do, invasive questions. And if they constantly monitor everything you do. I had this one girl who bitched about everything I ate and always needed to know where I was. Shit's annoying. Red flag number 6. When a friend told me she's cheated on every boyfriend she ever had. Yay, but she cares about me, bro. Spoiler, she did not. I talked to a good friend and somewhat potential girlfriend of mine and she told me how she cheated on her BF and what she is expecting from a guy. Literally unachievable conditions, she wants a bad boy who cares but doesn't, etc. I noped so fast out of the idea to be with her. Being committed and honest is my top priority. Red flag number 7. If they aren't willing to compromise on things, or they think their time is more precious than yours. My ex lived about 30 minutes away from me. I always met at his place or his town for stuff, never the other way around because he was too tired. It got under my skin because he literally was a 5 minutes drive from his job and I already averaged about 90 miles a day for work alone. So I'd drive for work, go home and then drive to his place. One day he tried rushing me out of our morning yoga class that ran over time, got really uptight about it, so he wouldn't be late for work, still 5 minutes away. Meanwhile I was gonna have at least a 25 minutes commute to get to my job and wasn't that worried about it. I broke things off for other reasons, but that one really buttered my rolls because I dealt with it every day. Red flag number 8. When I feel like I have to initiate every single contact between us and if I don't we simply won't talk that day. Or I'm the other person in this scenario, I just feel like I would be intruding if I contact someone and figure if they're not talking with me it's because they're busy doing something else. Shoot, now I'm sad. Turns out that even if it is intruding, the gesture itself lets them know you care, and mitigates and reinforces a positive opinion, to an extent. Don't hound them though. Also don't leave messages unanswered, just tie them in as missed if the flow of the conversation wouldn't be there. Red flag number 9. I dated a guy for 2 months that flat out told my dad, we started dating just before my birthday so they met for a birthday dinner, he wanted to get me pregnant so he could lock me in. I then found out he had a separate life when his other girlfriend found my phone number on my business page. Red flag number 10. When I feel like I have to initiate every single contact between us and if I don't we simply won't talk that day. Red flag number 11. Lack of straightforward communication. But I'm afraid she will yell at me if I tell the truth. Says every coward. To be fair, it is somewhat some parents' fault. Otherwise that's fact. Red flag number 12. The one that raises straight away for me is if they talk bad or down on others, even people they don't know, and it's merely off how they look or dress. Red flag number 13. Being flaky with communication and or meeting up. To an extent life can and will get in the way, but there's a certain level of enthusiasm you want to see from a potential partner, and if they can't muster it during the honeymoon stage of dating, it's probably not going to improve later. The girl I most recently dated was like this. She would respond within a window each day, which to be fair was between school and work. Then eventually she would respond every few days, and then just didn't respond for like a month. I had essentially given up but sent a text that was just like, hey, so I haven't heard from you in a literal month. I'm guessing you lost interest, but would appreciate just being told, yeah? She claimed she wanted to focus on herself instead of being in a relationship. I still took it as she just wasn't interested in being in a relationship with me. Based on some things she did, said I get the impression she's actually kind of afraid of a committed relationship on an unconscious level. Even if she doesn't realize it. I had already started talking to other people since it was pretty clear she wasn't interested when she didn't respond to me or text me for a literal month. Still hurt though, cause she was really cool until all that started. Red flag number 14. When they dodge answering questions or cut you off when you're talking. I give them a pass the first time because it might be nerves, but if it keeps happening it's not okay. This is a really good one. I'm lucky that I went out on a couple of dates with a very straightforward girl a few years ago. There were a number of reasons she didn't want to continue forward after 2 dates, but she did tell me that she felt I cut her off, talked over her quite a bit. And she was telling me because she could tell I meant well and wasn't doing it to be rude and probably wasn't even aware I was doing it at all. She sensed my anxiety and that my brain was rushing to think of the next thing to say to respond to something she'd just said rather than waiting for her to finish. Who knows how many dates I might have gone on and blown it by inadvertently doing this. I've been cognizant about it ever since. Red flag number 15. Yelling. My pop was a yeller, as is my brother. Sends me into immediate panic. Ugh, I dated a guy who was a yeller. Actually, he was a downright screamer. The kicker was, he'd be screaming at me and I'd ask him calmly to stop screaming at me, and he'd scream that he wasn't screaming at me. Okay, but he was also a huge alcoholic, and I think that had something to do with it. I dreaded bringing up any issue no matter how big or small, because it would send him into this blind rage of screaming. No matter what, he'd label every discussion of ours a fight. I couldn't have a conversation with him where he didn't feel attacked. He came from a family of drunk screamers, so I'm really glad I dodged that bullet. Red flag number 16. If all their exes are crazy or assholes. I've got a few normal exes that due to life circumstances on one side or the other, or both, didn't work out. I've got a few that we just weren't long-term compatible. And like most, I do have a couple that are, at least they were different kinds, batshit crazy. But if all their exes are jerks, it most likely means that they are the jerk. The 2 crazies I dated both spoke this way about all their former relationships. Also remember that crazy doesn't always occur in a vacuum. Some people are naturally batshit, yes, but I've known a lot of crazy enablers. They throw metaphorical gasoline into a crazy person's fire. A friend of mine loves crazy women and the passion they bring. His girlfriends would always get mad over something trivial, he would then push and push until they snapped. They would break up for a day and then get back together. He'd has done this with half a dozen women over the last decade. Red flag number 17. When they're way too clingy. My ex told me he loved me 2 days after we were dating, wanted to meet my family after 3 days, called my cat our son, constantly planned our future and how our kids would look like and our wedding, and I'm smart enough to know when to nip this shit in the bud. Geez, that doesn't sound healthy at all. I usually wait at least a week. Red flag number 18. Once met a woman at my best friend's wedding. I was the best man and she was a bridesmaid. She followed me around all night and kept calling me her future hubby. I ended up hiding, pretending to be passed out for much of the reception. Red flag number 19. If the person is suspicious you are a cheater on no basis other than their own insecurity, run. OMG, run please. Save yourself the heartache and degradation. So true. Dated a person who had cheated on their ex for 3 of the 10 years of the relationship. We agreed on exclusivity early on, and I stuck with it. He was completely paranoid and constantly accused me of looking at other men when I wasn't. Tacky. Who looks when with their so, which wasn't the main deal breaker, but all in all, I felt like he deserved his paranoia. Karma's a bitch. Red flag number 20. A lack of self-awareness. I once dated a guy who told 2 anecdotes of funny cluster F***ck situations. Both featured clear moments where the fault was his lack of research, his failure to follow through. But both stories were told like everyone else caused the issues. Like, where you'd expect, haha so yeah I should have done X, he would just say, so Milo was an idiot and jumped. A week later and it was clear, he didn't see he was the common denominator in his issues. He was quick to blame others. Any suggestion of self-improvement was met by a blank stare. A touch of humility, and a lot of self-awareness, is so necessary. I went on a date with a guy, and for context here, we're both in our 40s, and he told me what I assume was his best, most hilarious story from his college years, where he and his buddies were hazing frat pledges and scared some kids so bad he shit his pants, and then they abandoned him in the woods like 10 miles from campus and let him make his own way home. Zero self-awareness that I was horrified, not amused, even after I told him that was outright abuse and not at all funny. That this was the highlight of this guy's life, that he's still telling it as a great story 25 years later. Thanks, but I'll pass. Red flag number 21. Sending nudes or videos of herself getting hit from the back, 15 minutes into y'all's very first conversation ever. Yeah, very specific. I know. Are you me? I was sent videos from a guy hitting this girl from the back. Like, dude, I don't want to see you fuck someone else. Red flag number 22. When they start complaining about other people in your life and trying to get you to see how bad these people are for you, etc., when they aren't doing any